Hello and welcome to ADHD Support Talk Radio. My name is Tara McGillicuddy and I am the host of ADHD Support Talk Radio. I'm also an ADHD coach and the founder and director of ADDclasses.com. And at ADDclasses.com, we provide virtual support and education to people affected by ADD and ADHD. We offer free teleseminars. We have an extensive ADD audio library with more than 100 courses, and we also offer more in-depth support programs. And you can learn more about ADDclasses.com by going to the website www.addclasses.com. And with that, I would like to welcome Lynne Edris to ADHD Support Talk Radio. In just a moment, Lynne and I are going to be talking about chaos and overwhelm associated with ADD and ADHD. So welcome, Lynne. I'm so glad you've joined us at ADHD Support Talk Radio. I'm so glad to have you as a guest.
Thanks, Tara. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Before we actually get started with the discussion, can you let our listeners know a bit about yourself and also how can they get in touch with you after they've listened to today's show?
Okay, sure. My name's Lynne Edris. I'm a life and ADHD coach. I'm also a woman with ADD myself, mom to a college-age son with ADHD. I run a support group. I always say my life's like the ADD channel, all ADD all the time. And you can find out more about me and what I do at my website, which is Coaching Advantages, but it's kind of a play on words. It's Coaching ADD Vantages. So it's www.coachingaddvantages.com.
Okay, great. So chaos and overwhelm, and I'm sure a lot of the people listening right now can really relate to and identify with that if they have adult ADD or ADHD. So where do you want to get started, Lynne, when it comes to talking about chaos and overwhelm?
I always like to start with kind of like the definition piece. You know, what are we talking about? Mm-hmm. And I hear those words, chaos and overwhelm, a lot from the individuals who come to me for help. You know, my life is in total chaos. My mind is in total chaos. My home is in total chaos. My career's in chaos. My relationships are in chaos, and I'm so overwhelmed. So what I'm talking about, and I think what most of us are talking about when we're talking about chaos, is kind of a lack of order. And I actually Googled chaos and just to kind of get a more clear definition. And what I came up with was the first one was complete disorder and confusion, which, you know, kind of goes along right well with it. And then the second one I thought was kind of telling. It said behaviors so unpredictable as to appear random owing to great sensitivity to small changes in conditions. And I was like, whoa, that says something to me. I know, right? It's kind of... That
really describes us with ADD and ADHD.
Exactly. And I had to read it a couple of times because that last part, owing great sensitivity to small changes in conditions, kind of stood out for me because that's the part of the state of chaos many of us are living with. So we're living a life that's more reactive than proactive. So we're reacting all the time to small changes, you know, whatever's coming up next, whatever fire needs to be put out, whatever other emergency arises or thing that's, you know, should have been taken care of maybe before that now is an emergency. That becomes the way that we live our lives, putting out fires, emergency to emergency. You know, life kind of has us by the tail rather than the other way around. And I think that's why we have so much more stress. And, you know, that leads to the overwhelm. Overwhelm, I think everybody with ADD knows what we mean by overwhelm. It's that feeling where we're either, you know, completely stuck and immobilized, or it feels kind of like you're plodding along through quicksand. You know, I always call it the ADD quicksand, where you're really not working efficiently and effectively, but you're really just kind of, you know, maybe you're pinging from one thing to another, or you're really just not working, you know, efficiently, methodically, maybe linearly, if you like that word. Yeah. And it really, you know, we're shut down. It's impossible to reach your potential when you're in overwhelm. And I think that's, you know, I hear those two terms so often from the people that I work with and the people that come to me for consultations.
Yeah, and a lot of us, we don't naturally work by those systems, and that's not how our brain works, but in order to, like, live life and, you know, deal with the way the world's set up, we pretty much need to have some type of system in place, and if we don't, it's going to be chaos and, gosh, that constant overwhelm.
Exactly. I mean, when you live your life reactively, you're kind of, you're not in the driver's seat. You're basically just in constant response mode. Damage control, if you want to think about it that way. And you're just trying to minimize the pain. And that's a very different place from being proactive and, as hokey as it sounds, kind of, maximizing the joy, making the most and having the most joy and happiness and, fulfillment, all those things that we want from our lives. That's a very different place to be from when you're completely, in reactive mode. So, I always want to help move my clients to living a more proactive life so they're in the driver's seat. They're in control of what they do and, more so when they do it. Life happens, I get that. But if we can be proactive and sort of, kind of driving the bus more than, trying to get out of the way of it all the time, it sure does make more room for the things that make us happy.
Yep. And I think so many people with ADHD and ADD just aren't even aware there's another way to be living. They're just naturally living by being reactive, paying the bill 2 minutes before the lights get shut off and stuff like that, because that's natural. And a lot of times we've never learned or been taught systems that works the way our brain works, and it's almost just by default or easier just to live in the reactive mode. And like just talking about it, I'm getting like a pit in my stomach, because I know I lived that way for a lot of my life, and still, depending on issues, still sometimes live that way. But just you can, have a system. You can be proactive. There's hope, and not just hope. There are ways to do it, and I think that's something that people need to know. You don't have to live in the chaos and the overwhelm all the time. You don't,
and I think, the one thing that it kind of, often goes back to for those of us with ADHD is, when you're living life putting out fire after putting out fire and you're in that reactive place, I always call it, you're pedaling faster. It's kind of like, put your head down and just work harder rather than doing what we really need to do, the thing that we probably most often resist, and the thing that maybe, most of us who work with ADHD clients have to really work the hardest to get them to buy into is to pause. To pause and look at what needs to be done rather than, again, just putting your head down and pedaling faster and, working harder and staying up later and, taking less care of yourself and skipping meals and, all the stuff that we do, not exercising because there's not enough hours in the day because all we're doing is dealing with emergencies.
But that pause, I think, is something so many of us it's not naturally to do. We just keep fighting more and working harder. And sometimes it's just pausing and taking and breathing and, taking a 30-second breath or a 3-second breath. Even sometimes it's just that, not even looking at what's going on, but just stopping and breathing. And, I just recently put on the ADHD Awareness Expo, which was a huge event. I wouldn't say I was living in chaos, but I was overwhelmed because it was a huge undertaking. And I posted something on Facebook as a joke, I can't remember, and people were like, just breathe, Tara. And I'm like, okay. I had to, and just stopping and taking those breaths, it was amazing how much that changed my frame of mind. But, sometimes life does just get overwhelming because it's life, even if you have the systems in place and they work for the most part. And I think that pausing and breathing, that is just so important.
Yes, it is huge. And that's that's one of those things that is so simple, but I always say simple doesn't always mean easy. So you have to remember, somebody had to remind you on Facebook to breathe. And it's, it's kind of funny, but that's one of the things that, I work with, clients on all the time. What are the indicators that you need to breathe? What are your indicators that you need to pause and stop and think? For me, it's, I get like my jaw, I'm 48, and I just realized like literally 2 years ago that I'm a jaw clencher. So I get this like ache in my jaw when I'm kind of, pedaling faster. I get, uptight in my, kind of in my neck and my traps. Somebody, drew it to my attention a few years ago that I talk quickly anyway, but I talk much more quickly when I'm kind of like worked up and overwhelmed. So the speed goes up, the pitch goes up, the volume goes up. and I start doing what I always call, like, running around with one shoe nailed to the floor, where I feel like I'm just kind of pinging from one thing to the next and not really doing things in any particular order. I'm not leaning on my systems and the things, that really support me. And coming up with those external signs, those things that are outside of just thinking, coming up with those behaviors and activities and physical feelings that you can, kind of notice and pay attention to as indicators that, now it's time for me to, like, literally take a breath, sit down, stop, and breathe. Good couple deep breaths, and, then I can see what's going on, what's causing all of this. And usually it's, a lack of systems or structure, or not using the systems and structures and tools that I know support me. Not managing my time well, again, not using my time efficiently, not using my systems well, not managing my tasks well, so not using my, sort of my to-do list type systems well, so that things are kind of, popping in and out. That lack of structure thing, not having routines in place, or kind of, I always call it like a rhythm to your life that allows you to get stuff done when you need to get it done with less effort. So, not working in your sweet spot, the amount of structure that you need that feels supportive to you and helpful to you, but isn't so much that you're pushing back against it. So that's kind of like the structure sweet spot, I always call it. So, not working in your sweet spot, either trying to give yourself too much structure, or, not honoring the structures that you've put up before, or put in place before. And then there's your environment. What might be going on in your environment that might be feeding this feeling of chaos and overwhelm? A lot of times, and most of us can relate to this in some respect or another, too much stuff, clutter becomes visually and mentally overstimulating. And again, me and my little expressions that I always tell my clients, but I always say, physical clutter begets mental clutter. So when you have a lot of crap around, you can't think clearly. When things are kind of out of place, you can't think clearly. And it's kind of like a vicious cycle. When you're not thinking clearly, you're not taking time to put things away. You're not taking time to really take care of tasks and capture them in a way that you don't need to leave everything out in plain sight to remember what you were working on. And it kind of creates this vicious cycle, which, again, makes it harder for you to find the things you need, and then you leave more things out, and, all of that feeds the chaos. And then sometimes life is just too much. You just went through that with the expo. There were a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that you needed to kind of corral, and a lot of people corral and rein in and make sure they were happening when they needed to happen, and, just a lot of detail to manage. And when you're going through all that and you're in that place of overwhelm and the chaos is kind of, the order of the day, of course, self-care goes out the window. Again, simple isn't always easy. Regular and sufficient sleep, regular and sufficient exercise, eating well, managing your stress, doing things that bring you joy and kind of, I would say, feed your soul. Those are really simple things to do to improve your ADHD symptoms, but they're not easy when you're overwhelmed and when you're kind of in that. Yeah, and they're the first things to go, right? The self-care stuff.
Oh, they do. I mean, I'm still trying to get back on track with the exercise thing, and I know how important exercise is, and I get back, and it's something that's important to me, and I know it. And that's what fell through with the expo, and it's like, okay,
first thing to go, right?
It is, and not that I didn't. I mean, I have a trampoline, and I jumped on that for like 10 minutes a day, type of thing. But I was going to the gym almost daily, doing the elliptical for like 40-something minutes. I was up to over 3 miles. And it wasn't like I totally cut out the exercise, but that's the thing that fell through during my stressful time. And logically, I know that would be the most beneficial thing for me to do to help with the overwhelm, the focus, the stress, and all the other stuff. And it's not easy. And knowing, I think just talking to you about it, sharing with my listeners, because believe me, I have some listeners that will email me and ask me if I'm back on track with the exercise. So, but I'm putting it out there. I think this is my accountability. So, it's important, but I think also, like, just having someone else to discuss it with, to remind me, exercise is important, it fell through. This is why it's so helpful to work with a coach or to connect with other, people who understand ADHD and who can support you. Because I think one of the things, especially just doing the expo, that I was just reminded by the feedback is it's so important to get support and to not go through this alone when you have ADHD or have someone in your life with ADHD.
Oh my gosh, yes. And my coach, I've worked with the same coach for, oh my gosh, probably 7-8 years now, maybe more. And I don't know what I would do without him. I don't. I mean, he every now and then I'll think things are humming along, and he'll be like, "Whoa, you need to breathe. You're coming at me." And just the other day, he said, "You're coming at me." What did he say? Full speed ahead. And I'm like, all right, well, that's that thing again. That's my, the speed, the pitch, and the volume, are amplified. So what's up, right? That's my indicator that I need to, take a couple deep breaths. And, he calls me on it every time, and sometimes he calls me on it before I see it. And that's, as you said, the exercise, when my exercise that falls off, that's something that's really important to me, something I'm really committed to, something I've worked really hard at. And it's, when that falls off, that's an indicator to me that I need to, kind of pause and see what's up. What's going on? What's falling apart? What is it that I need to get back to? To be able to.
Or what do you need to change? Maybe the system, for exercising isn't working for you anymore. Maybe you need to change it up a little bit too. I think that's one of the things that just giving ourselves permission to adjust our systems, not just because what happens with a lot of us, and I admit to this, it's like, the system doesn't work anymore. Forget it. All right, not even
baby out with the bathwater, right?
Yeah, it's not even. It's by default it happens, but giving yourself permission or to pause and look and say, okay, what about it's not working? What can I change up? Maybe the exercise I'm doing, I'm getting bored with it. Maybe I don't like going to the gym anymore, or, maybe it's time to try something new. Maybe it's time to listen to different music while I'm exercising.
Or maybe my expectations are too high. Maybe an hour is too much. Maybe I can't do an hour right now, so can I be okay with 15 minutes? I mean, that's gotten me through a lot of days, 15 minutes isn't ideal, but 15 minutes on the elliptical sure as hell better than 0. So, whatever. I'll just do what I can and, move on from there. And, I think that all starts with the pause. It all starts with the pause and the breathe and, really giving yourself permission to look kind of objectively, or as objectively as you can, at what's going on. And I have this kind of acronym that kind of started the conversation off for you and I. I have this acronym that I use, and it's called CALM. It's CALM. For when you're in chaos, when you're overwhelmed, something easy to remember to help you, kind of work yourself through that. And it's CALM for calm, and it all starts with the pause. So once you realize that something needs to change, the first thing you do is see, you breathe, and then you clarify, what has you feeling so overwhelmed? What's the source of this chaos? And sometimes just getting clear on what kind of has shut you down is enough to get you moving again, because you can kind of, shine the light of day on it and really, look at it a little bit objectively. And then the A is for act. Determine specific actions you can take to remedy or solve the problem. A lot of times when we're shut down, that activation piece of executive function, that getting started is, kind of out the window. So what's the smallest thing you can do? Get really specific and really, clear on something small you can do to move yourself in the right direction. And sometimes that's enough to break the overwhelm and, kind of get inertia moving in your right direction. And then the L stands for limit. So, break that action into really specific limited steps or a couple of single action items, and don't, overwhelm yourself further by making yourself feel like you have to do it all, and you have to do it all now, and you have to do it all perfectly. So the limit part is really important, and again, something that's kind of hard for a lot of us with ADHD. And then the M stands for measure, which maybe, I couldn't find a better whatever M word, but really what that's about is what you're talking about. Review and measure regularly. Review and look at regularly whether what you're doing is still working for you. Are you still more calm? Are things still more under control? Or are you, less proactive than you want to be? Does something need to be tweaked? Giving yourself permission to make small tweaks and revisions really only happens when you pause and you kind of reflect on what might need to be done differently. Again, I'm not going to the gym as often, 5, 6 days a week, whatever. If that's the thing you were doing, what's going on there? Are you bored? Is it too much time? Is there something else going on, like maybe at the gym? Is it the time of day you're trying to squeeze it in? Or maybe you're just not getting enough rest and you can't get up that early. But, you have to give yourself permission to tweak whatever it is that you're doing and, kind of play with it until you find what works for you again, rather than, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, as we said, and starting from scratch, because that is what most of us tend to do. We don't give ourselves permission to revise and review and, the measure. So that's my little CALM acronym that helps me, kind of know what to do when I feel that sense of chaos and overwhelm kick in.
And you actually have a free report on your website that goes into this in more depth, right?
I do. Yep. It's on the homepage I think it's either on the homepage or on every page in the margin of my website. You're welcome to download it for free. Yeah.
Good. And that's coachingadvantages with 2Ds.com.
You got it. Coachingadvantages.com.
Okay, great. So we're actually getting towards the end of the show. Lynne, is there anything related to chaos and overwhelm that you didn't bring up today that you feel is important before we get going?
There is, and I'm glad you asked that question, because the one piece that's often missing from solutions is the piece that addresses what's going on between your ears. So if you find yourself, in chaos, if you find yourself living more reactively, putting out fires all the time and stressed and overwhelmed, the last thing you should do is beat yourself up. Feel guilty, give yourself a good whipping, for not doing, quote, what you should do or what you really, you need to do or really intended to do when you intended to do it. So, as soon as you pause, as soon as you notice whatever your signs are, you have to be nice. You have to cut yourself a break, accept, acknowledge that, crap happens. Life happens. This happens to all of us, no matter, how together everybody may seem at any given time. We're all going to struggle. So, stuff happens, and the best way you can deal with it is just to take a deep breath, be nice to yourself, and, look at it objectively and see what you can do differently to make it a little bit, better for yourself going forward. Nobody's perfect. And, if you walk away with nothing else from this, be nice to yourself. That's how you find solutions to your problems, not by beating yourself up.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's something a lot of us do, myself included. I don't do it as much as I used to. But, you get into that beating yourself up, and, it doesn't help. It makes it worse. It makes it harder. And, so being nice to yourself, that's so important.
Definitely.
And I think we all need people like you to remind us of that, because we can all get stuck into that mindset, but it becomes easier. And the more often you're nicer to yourself, the more, you practice the positive self-talk and all that, the easier it becomes. We all have bad times. We're going to, every once in a while beat ourselves up, but it's helpful to be nice to yourself and harmful not to.
No, those times should be the exception and not the rule,
Sometimes,
we do screw up. Yeah, we do, and everybody does, and we're human just like everybody else is. And I think sometimes when you have ADHD, the stuff that everybody else makes look so easy, is what's hard for us. And we know we're smart enough, we know we're capable, but sometimes we still struggle with that stuff. And, when it boils down in your mind to some kind of, character flaw or moral failing or some other kind of really not very nice judgment, you're not putting yourself in a place where you can, pause and really be proactive and solve the problem. You're just kind of, digging yourself a hole in the deep sand that's just going to keep, filling up, and that's not a good place to be. So it really does all start with being nice.
Yeah, and if you find yourself not being nice to yourself and you realize the people around you aren't being nice to you, don't spend as much time with them and spend more time with more positive people.
Exactly. You deserve to, right? I mean, we deserve to surround ourselves with people who support us.
Definitely. Well, Lynne, I want to thank you for being such a great guest on the show today. And before we get going, could you give out your contact information once again?
Sure. Again, my URL is, my website is www.coachingaddvantages.com. There's There are contact forms on the website. My email is Lynne, Lynne, @coachingaddvantages.com. I've got, contact forms, as I said, on the website, links to contact me, links you can schedule a consultation if, you're having trouble kind of, mastering these techniques on your own and you want someone to help, kind of support you and be your partner, in your journey toward living a more peaceful and calm life, feel free to contact me.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Lynne Edris, and thank you everyone for listening. And if you are listening to us on Stitcher or iTunes, be sure to stop by our website at www.adhdsupporttalk.com, where there's links to my website and my guest website. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.